Welcome, everyone, to episode 16 of the Most Interesting People in Logistics. Today, we have a very special guest, Robert Bain, also the strongest man in logistics.
That's right.
And he likes to be called just Bain. So, Rob, thanks so much for being on the show today.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. I never take it lightly that folks will invite me on to their shows, because obviously you could have anybody, and to be considered one of the most interesting people in freight or logistics is kind of cool. So I appreciate it, and looking forward to talking today.
Definitely. Well, I think just the fact that because you're the strongest man in logistics, that makes you super interesting.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah, there definitely has to be some kind of competition where you could, actually like give you an award or like a medal and, clarify that you're the strongest man in logistics.
I mean, we have powerlifting competitions, of course. Now, the one caveat I'll give is I have to segment it to just North America. There is an individual who is technically stronger than me over in Europe, Mariusz Pusinowski, 4-time world's strongest man. Like, I can't really touch that. So
yeah, well, luckily he's not in logistics, right?
He is actually. He owns a shipping company.
Oh, no way! I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty funny story around that, but some of the things that he's done. But yeah, he's very strong, and so I can't touch that. But North America, I got that. So,
but I think he's on steroids. So if
you absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I hope I'm not going to say anything, but maybe I hope you're not on steroids. Maybe.
I mean, no, I'm not. I have no opposition to them. Like, to me, it's just as a tool to trade, because there are a significant number of organizations that just don't test.
Yeah.
And so we've talked a little bit. I've done a couple of podcasts outside of this, and I have no issue with steroids. And the biggest thing about them is, like, if ultimately you've got either money on the line or you're trying to prove like the pinnacle of human existence, that's part of it, because humans have developed it. So that doesn't bug me. I don't have some moral compass that says they're bad. So
yeah, I mean, Arnold's taking steroids, and I mean all the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to break to everybody, but all your sports heroes, they're all on stuff.
Okay. Well, hey, as long as everyone's doing it, then it's fine, right?
Exactly.
Then it's fair. So Bain, I'm just gonna call you Bain.
Thanks.
Who you work at Carrier Direct as a consultant.
Yep.
Very cool. If you could just take us back to when you graduated college and got into logistics, give us your timeline.
You bet. Went to college. I played soccer in college, played soccer all through high school and college, still played up until I was in my 30s. That was kind of the impetus of why I went to college in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Leaving school, I wanted to go into restaurant management because I like restaurants, I like to eat, but there's not a lot of money in that. And so I decided to just get an office job and get some 9 to 5. And I went to work at CRST. And so I was a dispatcher at CRST. I worked in a lot of different areas there. Worked in loss mitigation. I worked with the air freight team. I worked overnights. Learned a lot working overnights at a large carrier.
Yeah.
And then decided to move to Chicago. Really, the decision came from me growing up in the DC area. I didn't like living in small town Iowa, and even Cedar Rapids with a couple 100,000 people to me was very small town. And my wife wanted to stay in the Midwest and stay close to her family. So it came down to Kansas City or Chicago. I wanted to stay in logistics. And so Chicago was where we ended up, specifically in the Des Plaines, Mount Prospect area. So came out here and worked at a brokerage, and I was a carrier sales rep, became a carrier sales manager and a trainer, moved on from there. And I actually ran a private fleet for about 5 years up in Waukegan, Illinois, part of a large contract packaging and manufacturing group. I sat in every seat there. Literally, I drove the trucks every now and then. I was a GM. I hired people. I grew that fleet from 6 drivers and 6 trucks to about 50 drivers and a couple hundred trailers by the time I left. And then I was part of the first group of industry hires for Uber Freight. A lot of folks have heard of them. Kind of helped build that into the monster it is today, which was really exciting. It was a super cool time in my career. It really jump-started my excitement around technology with logistics and supply chain. Left Uber Freight. I was the VP of operations at a brokerage out in Naperville. And then in between that and Carrier Direct, I sold technology with a company called Shipwell. They make visibility connected and enabled TMSs. They're based down in Austin. And I've been here at Carrier Direct for right at a year. It'll be a year actually in a couple of weeks. So, and Carrier Direct, we are a full service consulting and business strategy, as well as a tech development group. with our focus exclusively in the supply chain transportation sector.
Sure. I mean, I see Carrier Direct a lot on LinkedIn, and there's Ryan Schreiber, Peter, the CEO, and there's a lot of important people that are at Carrier Direct. Could you tell us what kind of offerings they have specifically? Like if, let's say, I own a brokerage and I come to Carrier Direct, what can you do to help me?
So that's a great question. I mean, we have a lot of different expertise, and to your point, there's an incredibly talented team at Carrier Direct. Really, we don't even have time to go through all that, but yeah, you get guys like Ryan, Adam Perlmutter, Peter Rentschler. Our technology team is incredible with Steve Dantis and Stephen Godfrey and Joel. So we do a couple different things. I look at two big tracks that we look at. We look at business strategy and consulting, and that could be something as simple as just an assessment of the business, like where are some weak points, where are you strong, where are some opportunities, and what could we possibly do after this, to all the way to complete organizational transformations where we just finished an engagement with a client where they are an asset-based carrier with a broker backing. So they have a brokerage that was not really focused on over the last 8 to 10 years. And so we completely redesigned the organization from roles, responsibilities, the org setup, compensation, the regions in which they provide coverage, everything. It was about a 7.5-month engagement. So we kind of run that breadth. And then when it comes to the technology side, we do integrations, we can do custom development, we have a very wide swath that we can do on the technology side as well.
Okay. Where do you see the future of freight tech going? Like, do you have any insights that you could share with us, or could you provide us just some kind of clues as to where it's heading?
Sure. You're going to see a continued over the next few years, continued investment. There's a need and an appetite for investment in the space, and the reason being is because there has been so many layers that have been put on over the years. So when I say that, I say when you look at the different intermediaries, whether they are forwarders, whether they are supply chain management companies, whether they're going to be in 3PLs, 4PLs, all those different layers, and they're not bad, but you're going to see some of those start to get stripped away by technology because there won't necessarily be a need for them. You're going to see a lot of things are going to become data driven. So think of like your spot pricing, your dynamic contracts. All those things are going to be starting to get handled by machines. And really where you're going to see people interact with this is going to be on the person-to-person interaction, because ultimately an algorithm can determine a price. And if anybody ever questions that, just go book a flight anywhere. You can book a flight 6 months from now and they know exactly what the price is going to be.
Yeah.
That is coming for freight. It's just going to be a few years down the line because there's a lot more fragmentation, a lot more players involved versus an airline. It's a lot more difficult to do that. But an algorithm can't ask you, hey, how was your kid's soccer game last Saturday? So that's going to be where the people interaction is where, and very important, but then also understanding, how to adjust those algorithms. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, so it's still going to be a relationship heavy industry.
Absolutely.
But we'll have some technology helping us along the way, making it easier.
It'll augment those relationships. It'll create transparency. It ultimately will strip away some of the wasted motion and, to be frank, some of the wasted financials. But again, that is coming. It is not here yet.
Okay.
Not to scare everybody. Skynet's not going to fall on us yet.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do you really think that like in the next 3 to 5 years there's going to be any like drastic changes in like how we do business?
From the standpoint of where M&A is going to come in, I absolutely believe so. I believe there's going to be substantial mergers and acquisitions over the next 3 to 5 years that will help spurn investment in technology. And so I think the biggest thing you're going to see is automation around like the dispatching and like, so from like a driver facing perspective. But then when you look at like from a consumer facing perspective, I don't think there's going to be much that the individual consumer is going to see that will be different. Things will still move. Things will still get to your shelf eventually. And so all those things will still happen, but everything happens in between, I don't think is necessarily going to be visible to the consumer. The big jumps from that, I believe, are still probably 8 to 10 years down the line.
Okay. I mean, I was thinking today, because I started brokering freight 6 years ago, or almost 7 years ago. And when I think about those last 7 years, almost nothing has changed to what I was trained at in terms of technology or just the relationship aspect, or, like all that stuff hasn't changed. And, and when people think it's 3 to 5 years, it's actually a short time period. And I don't when I think about it, I don't think anything's gonna be drastic, right? The M&A stuff, like that's not gonna change a freight broker's day to day or dispatcher's day to day, right?
Well, not yet. The only reason it may change is because they may have a different boss or they may have a different process. So that's what I mean about the change. But no, it's not going to change. Like all of a sudden, stuff is delivering into Chicago, and now it's going to deliver to Minneapolis, and you got to go figure it out. That's not going to change.
Sure. Bain, since you're here, I'm going to pick your brain on this. Let's move like 20 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of drastic changes will take place in the logistics world?
So looking into my crystal ball, and let's a couple of caveats here. This is also utopia when it comes to the legislative side, because that's a whole different animal that I don't have the knowledge to predict yet.
Okay.
As I walk through the next 20 years, you're going to see the rise of autonomous commercialized vehicles. And I say that in a very positive light because it is going to eliminate parts of the job, and when I say job, the driver's job, that are less desirable and will help bring folks back into that industry, the driving part itself. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot more autonomous vehicles on the road. You're going to see incremental speed increases when it comes to, and velocity increases when it comes to products moving, because again, you're not going to be limited now by humans necessarily over the road. You're also going to see a lot more drones and automated and robotic deliveries. And you're going to see humans working on those things more and more and more. The couple caveats that are going to come with that is there is going to be a big push for the green movement. And so you're going to see a lot of these want to be electrified. I think that there's going to be a lot of fallout with that because the infrastructure needed for the green movement is still very fossilized and is still very harmful to the planet. And so I do think there's still a challenge around that has not been solved yet.
Okay.
But yeah, so you're gonna see autonomous vehicles, you're gonna see a lot more electrified vehicles, and you're gonna see a lot less in-person buying. I do believe stores that are become a thing of the past, but you're gonna see a lot more hybrid stores that are basically half DC, half in-person store.
Okay. What about like a freight broker, or a dispatcher? Could you tell us, or do you know if any drastic changes in 20 years will take place?
So with that, I do believe that from a freight broker perspective, the traditional dialing for diesel style of carrier sales rep, 20 years they may be knocking on death's door at that point. They won't be totally gone because there's still going to always be a need for a little human intervention. Yeah. But that role is going to be drastically reduced. If you're looking on the client facing side, I think you're going to see the rise of importance for elite account management and relationship management. That is become much more important as automation and as technology begins to take hold. Because ultimately, again, a lot of these things are going to be automated and are going to be handled by algorithms. And you're going to have to be very good at that relationship management to make sure that it makes sense to continue to do business together.
Sure. Thank you for those insights, Bain. Glad to get some of that, because I think a lot of brokers and dispatchers are very curious as to how their day-to-day is going to change.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot less manual work. It's going to be a lot more interacting with their clients. Sure. You're not going to see data entry. You're going to see, especially as APIs continue to replace the EDI and SOAP process, you're going to see a lot more dynamic platforms and systems, and you're going to see these individuals interacting together to ensure that the freight moves through.
Definitely. And Bain, could you tell us how your day-to-day looks like?
Sure. So my day-to-day is for the most part client facing in two different ways. About 50% of it is sales and business development and new customer acquisition, as well as mining our current customer base, with new deals or new projects. And then about 40% of my day is spent around we call project delivery. Or so if we've been contracted by someone, I'm either advising, creating deliverables. It could be something as simple as a job description to an entire org chart and process flow development. And then about 10% is just kind of doing miscellaneous like internal initiatives. So training enhancements, doing recordings like this, or other types of like thought leadership, just a lot of internal initiatives that we have at Carrier Direct. And as we go through, we're actually going through a big transformation right now. We've got some pretty big news that should be dropping either late this week or early next week around some of that transformation. So little teaser in there for everybody.
Okay. You won't tell us. I'm guessing that's not going to happen.
Can't do it yet. I can't officially do it, but
I understand. No worries. No worries. Okay. So with your client management expertise, Bain, could you tell us, I mean, what kind of advice do you offer to your clients? Like just maybe some basic advice to get like a little sneak peek.
Sure. So if I'm talking to our clients about their clients, so let's kind of go from that realm. The biggest thing is by the way, can I swear on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Perfect. Not everybody has the E rating, so I gotta be sure. The first question that I want people to ask if they're talking about their clients is, why the fuck do they want to do business with us?
Okay.
What differentiates us? Every broker has trucks. Every broker has some, BI is going to create some neat little visual for you. You need to be able to provide insight on their business and help them solve problems that sometimes they don't even realize they have. A great example, understanding like detention at their individual facilities and why that's a problem. What is happening? Is it yard management? Is it the people there suck? Is it that their appointment times are never adhered to? Like what are the things that are actually happening, and taking those insights that you can get all the way down from the driver level and bringing that to your client, as well as bringing solutions to them. Because when you solve the problems, they get them yelled at by their boss. That is where they start to solidify that relationship, because now you're a go-to advisor. You're not just the person asking for more freight.
Yeah. Okay.
So providing insights is huge when I talk about building client relationships, and then it's asking those silly questions like, hey, how many kids do you have? Like, where are you from? Like understanding who they are, because ultimately people always want to do business with friends. And if things are equal, they do business with friends. If things are unequal, people still do business with friends.
Sure.
That's something I always preach to, to my clients and also to those who work for me, whether I'm at a brokerage or any other role.
Okay. So you gave us the perspective from a shipper's side, right? About the detention.
Mm-hmm.
So you're working with shippers, freight brokerages, anyone that's related in the supply chain.
Yep.
Is there any field that sticks out at Carrier Direct that, are there more shippers and brokerages coming to Carrier Direct, or is it around the same?
It's very much so 3PLs, intermediaries, brokers. That really is who is coming to us right now. Okay. And really we've doubled down on that. We have a lot of deep expertise on that. And so we've really, focused on intermediaries and 3PLs and really what we're seeing with them is they're asking about client retention. They're asking about technology roadmaps. That's a huge one. We talked about technology already today. Yeah. That's a big thing that a lot of folks are asking about, is like, there's all this technology and it's dope. And I can actually touch on this a little bit too. How do we decide what to invest in? Like what do we need? And that's a great engagement that we have. And usually it's pretty quick. It takes a few weeks. So we interview some of the key folks in the organization and understand what current capabilities are, what kind of that utopia is, what's the in-between, and then where they should focus some of their efforts. But that's one of the big things with a lot of brokers. Let's be very real here. Slanging freight is not difficult. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Oh, 100%.
And so that's the basic part. But then how do you take the technology that's available and affordable, because that's another thing too. And how do we decide what to get? How do we implement it? And then how do we get our people to adopt it? Those last two things are the two biggest ones when it comes to the technology piece. And we get a lot of brokers and a lot of 3PLs and a lot of intermediaries that come to us and ask for help with that.
Okay. And you've been at Carrier Direct for a year, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Within that year or this year, have you has Carrier Direct grown in terms of employees and just profit? Because I'm guessing, or earnings, just because of the fact that logistics has become really mainstream in the media. How's that affected Carrier Direct?
All positively. Revenue's up. We hit a lot of great targets last year. I think we're going to make some announcements on that. We had some that we put out on LinkedIn. But yeah, we've grown. We started the year at, I want to say it was like 60 full-time employees.
Okay.
We got a group of contractors as well that are spread throughout the world. And I believe we are right at 100 full-time employees now, spread throughout North America. Yeah, it's really exciting. As I mentioned, incredible talent across the board, both young talent and seasoned. And so it's super exciting to be a part of the organization and to know that we have this very niche offering when it comes to strictly focusing in supply chain, transportation, logistics. And we have such a deep understanding of all these different things. We really are able to provide a lot of awesome stuff for our clients. But yeah, so we've grown tremendously. Our partnerships have helped us tremendously, and we're growing with them. And obviously our clients are incredible, and we've been able to do a lot of great things with their businesses, and then also to be able to to get referrals from them. And we've done enough good business that we get referrals from our clients, and that's how you're doing a good job.
Definitely. To move on from carrier direct and logistics world, Bain, could you tell us more about the lifting world that you're part of?
Sure. So a quick story, then we'll kind of get into what I do now. So playing soccer, I got hurt. This is about 8-9 years ago, and I've kept track of my training, my workouts, whether it's for soccer or whatever, since I was 13. Every practice, everything, like keeping notes. I was really meticulous about that because soccer, or football in Europe, as you all call it, was my passion. It's what I loved. I was part of the U.S. Olympic development program. Really had aspirations to play at a very high level and really wanted to. And so wasn't able to do that for a variety of reasons. Biggest one being, I got a girl pregnant when I was 20 years old. So I had to go be a dad. So when I got hurt, I started looking back at my training, and I realized like when I was focused on what we call the main movements, which are going to be squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, these main like Olympic style movements, my body was much more resilient and I wouldn't get hurt. And it's like, I need to go back to that. I need to stop focusing so much on like a bodybuilder style workout. And I need to focus on really just building strength and building tensile strength, especially as I'm getting older. I need to make sure that I kind of, bulletproof my body. So I started doing that, and I love this man to death. But I always tell the story that this creepy Russian guy sees me squatting at the Ladoff YMCA in Des Plaines. I know you haven't been familiar with it because you know the Des Plaines area.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you've got okay form, but if you want to work on a couple of things, he showed me how to brace my core, and he tweaked my foot position a little bit. So just 2 quick things. And then he adds another plate to the bar. So there's 500 pounds in the bar suddenly. And I'm like, oh, holy crap, man. He's like, yeah, go ahead and squat this for a few reps. And so I bang him out, and he's like, you got some potential. You should try this whole powerlifting thing. And so I go to my first meet, which happened to be my 32nd birthday. And I go to the weigh-in room, I weigh in, I come back, and I go to this big gym in Sycamore, Illinois, and my wife is with me. And I see this guy squatting. And as he comes down to the bottom of the movement, as he transitions back up, because of the pressure that's being applied by the lifting suit he has on and the weight on his back, it's almost 1,000 pounds. His face just explodes. Blood's gushing out of his nose, and he comes up, he completes the lift. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And my wife freaks out. She's like, you want to do this? I'm like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I hung up the boots. I was done. And I focused exclusively on strength sports and powerlifting since then. So fast forward to now, and I'm what is considered a pro level, though I don't make any real money on powerlifting. But I've been able to squat in training 1,050 pounds. In an actual competition, I did 953. I've benched over 600 pounds. I've deadlifted over 700 pounds, all in competition, which is really, to me, like the pinnacle. Like that's what matters, because training is just practice. And then on top of that, I've also been able to be a part of the production and logistics crew for some of the biggest meets in the world, specifically the WPO Super Finals. This is like the high octane. They lift in these incredible lifting suits and bench press shirts, and it is routine to see a dozen individuals squatting 1,000 pounds multiple times throughout the day during these kind of meets. And I'm the person who keeps them safe as a lead back spotter. So it's try to put that real quickly into a nutshell, but that's what's been really awesome. And then being a part of the strength world. But what's really cool is I've been able to travel around the world. I've competed in England. I've completed all of the United States. My daughter has actually come alongside me, my 16-year-old daughter, Lily, and she is a 2-time world champion, 6-time national champion, as well as an elite ranked gymnast and cheerleader. Aside from going to class, I'm pretty sure there's nothing else she can't do. And so it's really cool that now it's become like a family affair. And now my youngest son did his first meet in July. And so it's super cool that I get to be strong and lift heavy weights and do stuff nobody else gets to do. And my kids get to come alongside and do it with me. And we got to, continue that strength culture throughout our family. So it's been super cool kind of transformation over the last 8.5, 9 years.
Definitely. How has powerlifting helped you in your career and just like in business? What are the benefits of it? Great
question. Well, first things first, punching a client is frowned upon. So, I usually kind of did some therapy. No, I kid. It's been great for a couple of things. One, just physical activity is huge. I think there's dozens and dozens of studies that show physical activity has benefits when it comes to mental health, when it comes to mental acuity, and the ability to focus and be able to work and perform long hours of tasks at your job. It also now, because of the level which I compete at, it gives me just different talking points besides just talking about logistics and transportation. Ultimately, people do want to know what I know when it comes to that, but invariably the conversation always goes back to, so you lift how much? And that's great because it's a great way to kind of humanize the whole process of either being a consultant or just talking just business in general. Because again, I talk about kind of that making friends. This is kind of my in for a lot of people, is either playing soccer, being a parent, or being strong. All those things kind of give me different ways to talk to individuals. And so that's one of the big benefits that I didn't realize what happened as I continued down this path with strength.
Okay. And then Bain, I got to ask about the beard. Is there like some basically like, I don't know, requirement in Carry Direct that if you're a consultant, you have to have a beard like yours? Because I know Ryan Schreiber has a beard similar to yours.
Yes. So this is how we assert dominance is the facial. So the funny story with the beard is I actually, up until 2 years ago, I wouldn't go more than 5 days without shaving. I was clean shaven. I always, because I viewed that as a very professional look, and I always wanted to kind of portray that. Yeah. And not that the beard is not professional, but I didn't like it, and I didn't think I could pull it off. And when all the lockdowns started to happen in March of 2020, my wife had always wanted to see me with a beard, and she's like, hey, why don't you just grow it out? It's not going to be 2 weeks. It'll be at least 4. We know that. So like, why don't you just grow it out for a month and see what happens? And so other than a few trims, I have not cut my beard in 2 years.
Oh.
And so now it's branded. It's actually on our logo for my main podcast that I do. It's on pictures and advertising for different meets that I'm a part of. It's on my LinkedIn photo. So it's a thing, and it is basically here to stay. So it's interesting. Beard culture is a whole different thing too, but it is not a requirement, though. Again, it is how we assert dominance at Carry Direct.
I like that. And then Bain, to wrap it up, what advice would you offer a recent college grad?
Ooh, great question. I assume a recent college grad going into logistics.
Honestly, anything. I mean, it could be logistics related, but just like, what would you have liked to know at that age?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So my college graduation experience is a little different because, I had a almost 13-month-old. So don't do that while you're in college. But to each their own. You're all adults. You can do what you want. Biggest thing is whatever field you go into, learn your job and start to learn the other jobs. I actually mentioned this on a post with Chris Jolly, the freight coach. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris.
Of course, I've been on his podcast. He's been on mine. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And Chris is a great friend, and I love him. And he made this post about what would you tell your younger self? And if I could tell myself anything, it would be start to learn the other roles, understand how the business works, and why learning these other roles and learning how they interact. One, you start to identify areas where there's gaps, and you start to understand how you can work, and you can see things from your coworker's point of view, and allows you to work better with them. That starts the leadership process. Ultimately, I believe every person has leadership ability. And the best way is when you can see things through other people's lens. And by doing that, and I've done that over the course of my career, I've been able to sit in a lot of different seats. And I think that has brought the most value because I can see things through the lens of a carrier sales rep, an account manager, an account coordinator, a driver, all the way up to a VP of operations. And so being able to see life through their lens, I think, is incredibly important. And that takes time and it takes effort. And by being willing to do that, you also show incredible value to your teammates and to your leaders. And that typically will point them towards investing in you, which ultimately becomes a flywheel where that self-investment becomes investment by others. And the other thing too is never stop networking. You don't know where those people are going to come from that are going to change your life. And I can speak specifically of one individual. a guy named Chris Glotzbach. So Glotz was the guy who hired me at Uber. He didn't know me from anybody. He saw my resume. He liked it. He met me for all of 2 minutes. And he's like, I know people like you. You're like me. And so I'm going to hire you. And that changed the whole trajectory of my career and my life. And so it's never stopped now. And Glotz and I are great friends still today. And we continue to make sure that we expand each other's networks because it has done us both very well when it comes to our career advancement. And so learn other people's roles and never, ever stop networking.
Great advice, Bain. I totally agree with that. And then how could people connect with you? What's the best way?
Sure. So you can reach me via email, rbain@carrierdirect.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Robert Bain. If you want to see a little more spicy content, you can go to the Instagrams @Bain316. Those are the 3 best ways to get a hold of me.
Sure. And you also have a podcast.
Yeah, I do. The Strength and Anger podcast. And you can find us on Strength and Anger on the Instagrams or on anywhere where podcasts are at. So on Apple, on Spotify, Google Play. We have right at 100 episodes, all focused on strength sports and the history of powerlifting. You'll hear the dichotomy of me and my co-host Eric. He may be the most subdued guy on the planet, and I am definitely not.
Well, the strongest man in logistics. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Can't wait to hear the episode, and can't wait to see you keep doing good things, man. It's exciting to see it.
Thanks, Bain. I appreciate that. And that's a wrap.
Awesome.